1, 2. Okay, we are live. We are back. GYGB War Report show. And as we talk right now, man, like I think all of us here are still processing all this. Uh, yeah, man. Look, I mean, nothing else to say besides the news that all of you know. We have a new unified heavyweight champion of the world in that of Andy Ruiz Jr. So, our apologies for the brief absence. I'm your co-host, Roberto Flat. The whole crew on the line. What's up, fellas?
Yo.
So, man, let's just jump right into it. I mean, but the crazy thing is, we actually have the debut of Triple G on DAZN this Saturday. You know, we want to talk about it, but I'm sorry, man. Like, this whole show is going to be dedicated to, however you want to term the heavyweight division at this point, but it has bursted wide open. And yo, we're just coming off an Endgame, right? You know, all of it. You know, I think everybody can stop with the whole spoiler alerts and what have you. You know, your time is done. But this was the proverbial snap of the finger. What did you guys think, like, as it relates to the heavyweight division?
You saying before this situation popped off?
Well, yeah. I mean, you figure before Saturday night, right?
Right.
We're all thinking, all of us, man. Like we know Wilder Joshua's not gonna happen yet, at least.
What?
But we're like, okay, here's Andy Ruiz Jr., a kid that we all seen. You know, our boxing brains telling us, like, yeah, Anthony Joshua is not he's not perfect by any means, but he should be able to beat this guy. So what I mean by the snap of the finger in the sense is, I mean, you guys know this has absolutely flipped the heavyweight division upside down. And as we sit here right now, none of us really know what is going to happen next. I mean, we know.
Well, when I think of snap of the finger, I think about let's not think about like what the movie that just came out. Let's think about the one before that, Endgames. Like when I think of snap of the finger, I don't think of.
Okay, my bad. Yeah. You're right. Let me rephrase.
Thanos kind of left us with the pieces, and this is what we're left with. We're left with pieces right now because remember, Joshua and Wilder were supposed to kind of correct everything that was supposed to happen. They just kind of left us, the Avengers, with all the pieces. Like, we're like, what the heck? We're trying to find out where these contenders are now because all these people are gone now. All these champions are just gone. It's just two now. Like even with Tyson Fury, like where is he? We're just left with pieces right now. We're trying to put this stuff together right now as the Avengers. It's just we're left in shambles right now. Train and I are trying to put it together. You're trying to put it together. We're trying to fathom it. We're dedicating a whole show to try to piece this together. We're just sitting here as Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America trying to piece this whole thing together.
Yo, so it's funny. Me and Train were going back and forth because you were somewhere, Train, and you were watching the fight. So like, what was your reaction as like everything started to unfold?
Well, it's crazy, man. Like Docs, I forgot to mention this, Roberto. Docs had mentioned weeks ago, Rada Dog can attest to this, that Andy Ruiz was going to give Joshua fits. Kept saying it. And I'm like, I'm gonna be interested. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even want to watch it because I was like, man, he gonna kill this little dude. You know what I mean? Another little mismatch. You know, it just looked like a serve up that just a pass by type of fight. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, it started to happen. And I'll let Rada Dog get in here in a second. But you know, as you watching it, you could like we got a pretty good keen eye when it comes to watching fights. You know what I mean? And you could see a tide starting to change in the fight because he was getting closer and closer and closer. You know, within distance. You know, he's a really good inside fighter. And for a guy like Anthony Joshua, he don't, like me and Rada was talking earlier offline. He don't clutch. I mean, he don't clinch. He's a big, strong guy, but it's really pointless because he don't know how to use his strength in the ring, like spinning and clinching and tying a guy up. So when you got a guy that knew how to fight inside, like Ruiz did, that's problematic for a guy like Joshua. So that also mixed in with his chin is suspect, which is proof in the pudding. And here's the thing. He don't get hit with really hard, like, I don't consider these. Look, put it like this. Julian ate harder shots from Hurd than the shots that Anthony Joshua gets put down with. You know what I'm saying? And then Julian was a guy that people was questioning his chin. And we saw him, work on some things and know how to weather a punch maybe better. But in this situation here, it reminds me of another guy, another Brit, Amir Khan. Now, Khan was a better, quote-unquote, skillful fighter, but Joshua is a guy that really has we use that term suspect chin, and sometimes it's overused, but this guy, his punch resistance is starting to look really, really weird. And we all know in boxing, once that goes,
it's downhill from there.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Look, there's two things in boxing: reflexes and punch resistance. Once those two things go, it's over. And I'm not saying his career is over, but once you've been knocked out and been knocked down so many times like that, it's going to continue to happen. Not saying that his career is over, he's going to lose, but he's going to get knocked down again and get knocked out again. But props to Ruiz, man. Like, this dude's whole life has changed from this situation.
Absolutely, man. And I made we'll touch on, before we wrap up about Stephen A. Smith, but that's a whole other thing. ROD, man. Give me your take as far as how everything, as it was unfolding and, your immediate reaction.
Nah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. I really was shocked. I have to go on record to say that, Train did say that, docs did tell us that he was a pretty good guy and don't sleep on him. And we knew that he had some skill, but we thought that, and I'm going to be honest, when you think about someone that usually comes in last minute, most of the time people will believe that the person that's coming in last minute is the serve up, not the person that's kind of been training, if that makes any sense. So and the reason why I say that, because Andy Ruiz, man, he just had a fight. So he just came in kind of like last minute, boom. And you're like, if you're like me, you're like, okay, well, this is like, Big Baby Miller, he kind of messed everything up. So now this is Anthony Joshua. He gonna make his USA debut. He gonna stretch this guy. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it and I'm listening to docs, and docs usually don't talk confidently like he was, if you think about a Train, unless he really knows something. And he confidently spoke like, yo, this fight gonna be a lot harder than y'all think it is. And we were just sitting there and Train was like, man, I'm not even interested in this. And we watched it. And I think for the first round, I was just like, okay. Then let me go back. My little brother, man, shout out to him. His name is Livewires. He's on Instagram. He said, what type of stupid fool will let somebody hold their belt before a fight? He was like, I'm trying to not even let you sniff him. He's like, he said that was the writing on the wall for him right there. But anyway, getting back to it, we all were under the narrative, okay, last minute fight, Ruiz is at a disadvantage because he doesn't, he's fighting the heavyweight championship of the world. He kind of took it last minute. He's going to come in here and everything is stacked to Joshua. But little did we know the whole backstory. We've heard, Train talked about the limitations we had, that Joshua had, and our trepidation to kind of crowning him. And those things were lack of angles, lack of foot movement, lack of head movement, real robotic, really no 1-2 and no clinch game. And when you think about it, he keeps his hands low. And on top of that, I feel like by him fighting so tall, he needed to use a style that was employed by the Klitschko's, post Lamont Brewster, all that stuff. Or Lennox Lewis post, before Hakeem Rahman, but post Alvar McCall when he got with Emmanuel Stewart, rest in peace. But that style doesn't work for him being 6'6". As a matter of fact, he might as well be 5'11" fighting like that. So when I went into
let me just say that real quick, what you said about the Klitschko's too, Ryder. I remember also they had a night, even though their chin was a little shaky, but like you said, they worked on some conditioning. They got with Emmanuel Stewart, but the one thing that they always had was a jab, both of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Which Joshua don't have, which he don't use, I should say.
Right. And they had a good 1-2 to your point.
1-2, right? Exactly.
And it was very educated 1-2 that they knew how to basically get them off of you. And as a matter of fact, we saw that 1-2 with what I call a 40-year-old virgin when he came out of retirement 2 years and still gave Anthony Joshua all types of trouble. 2 years off.
Yep.
With that same 1-2. But anyway, I'm just giving you how I felt before the fight and just wrap it up. But I really just believe that, and no disrespect to Andy Ruiz, but I just felt like he was at a disadvantage because of how they tried to play him. I mean, let's just think about it. This was Prince Hakeem coming to America to try to find a bride. Like, he was supposed to be the chosen one. He was supposed to come here and kind of like put those pieces together. We wasn't expecting Ruiz to be Thanos and to leave us with all these little pieces, which is what we got. We got the shock of our lives. Everything is left in shambles. We're putting it together. And we're like, oh, crap. Like, at the end of this was, 2 weeks ago, our boy, Wilder came in. He cleaned up something. Okay. He was he was the Captain Marvel. And now Thanos comes in here and he's supposed to we're supposed to beat Thanos, and now all of a sudden Ruiz is Thanos. Now he just basically destroys the whole planet, and we're like 50%. We're like, what the heck is going on? It was supposed to be Joshua and Wilder. So again, it was no disrespect to Ruiz. I just felt like Docs told us, Tyson Fury told us that Ruiz was very good. We should have known it, but based on the situation, based on Miller calling out or being taken out rather, and based on the fact that Ruiz just had a fight and that Joshua, there was no way that Eddie Hearn would just pick somebody that was a very live opponent for Joshua under these circumstances. We never thought in our wildest dreams that what happened on Saturday would happen. Now, I mean, we can get into the fight now, but that's the backstory. Like, if you said that you predicted this, I'm going to say you're a bad mug because no one predicted this.
Because even Doc just said he thought he would give him some trouble, not that he was going to win the fight.
I think, but the funny part was, like, I think a lot of us we're kind of looking at it at Andy Ruiz. Like, for me in particular, like, I looked at Andy Ruiz like, you know what? Like, this actually, though I'm picking Joshua to win, this might be a better fight because I had seen Andy Ruiz in the Joseph Parker fight, in a fight that I think he might have won, which ironically was for the WBO belt. So, but go ahead, RD, finish your point.
No. That's just it. I'm just giving you the backstory. I just think none of us picked it, and it was no disrespect to Andy Ruiz. It was just like a lot of those cards were stacked against him. It had nothing to do with how out of shape he looked. It had nothing to do with how great we thought Anthony Joshua was. It's just the whole promotion thing. Like, we thought, it was just kind of like underhand. It's like softball pitch, like basically, I forget the term, but like basically I'm going to throw you one over the plate. It's just like kind of dad pitch. Like, everybody gets a hit. Everybody gets on base. I thought that this was one of those situations. Like, we're just going to throw you underhand pitch. You're going to hit. There's not going to be no curveballs. This guy, Joshua, he went to the plate, man, and he got a changeup.
That's the baseball reference is a good one, and to the point where Anthony Joshua, back to the baseball reference again, he's not an on-base hitter. He's a guy that just hit home runs. And we all know, like, you're a guy that just hit home runs. You know, what happened, like you said, when you get a guy that know how to switch pitch, you know, his pitch game, his switch pitch game is crazy and got you just literally swinging for the fences. Another thing about Anthony Joshua that can't go unnoticed is how much energy is absorbed when he knocks guys down. That's the one thing that we saw before. That's one out of many, pardon me, that we saw before. He absorbed so much energy. And this go back to the Freddie Roach point about the stiffness and the upper body mass that needs to come down, which is too late for that. But when he knocks Ruiz down, to me, what I saw a guy that was winded and took, like, he just knocked down right after, you know what I mean? Like, right after he gets knocked, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he absorbs so much energy throwing punches, and that's from not knowing how to throw punches properly. I never forget something Bernard said. He said, you got to treat punches like coupons. You gotta use them. They're like, he said, they're literally like coupons. You know, you got to be real frugal with them. And it's true. You can't waste punches in boxing. We see it all the time. How many times we see boxers gas out from throwing just too many punches or stepping into punches at the wrong period? How many times do you see Floyd step into a punch? It's at certain periods of time. And Floyd is the height of it. You know what I mean? But that was another thing that I noticed about him.
I think one of the issues that he has as far as him, the size and things of that nature is, you made a point as far as spending the energy and things as such. And then even when he gets hurt, you know, there's a lot of nervous energy he spends. And, you know, ROD is mentioned as U2 train, like, you know, this isn't a bodybuilding contest, you know, and
shout out to Floyd Sr.
Word. You know, we have to look at this based on what we've also seen of Joshua. You know, here's the crazy part, right? I know both y'all don't look at this as a bigger upset than Tyson Buster Douglas over Tyson. I don't. Come on.
Because he still was only a 14-1 underdog, even though much is
Buster
was a 40-1 underdog.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
Right. And I tried to make the point, and I told you guys this morning, as far as, you know, if you didn't come up in the 80s, like, even though Deontay Wilder's knocking dudes out and things as such, man, like, nobody has had the aura that Mike Tyson had in the 80s.
Nobody.
Well, you got to remember that aura, when we think about it, was sort of like, I hate to say it, was sort of like, and just walk with me for a second, was sort of like the Fab Five. I mean, he did it for the culture. Like, when you think about it.
Great point. You know,
that's the
right on the head. And
that's actually a great parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people sit here and they like you said it, Roberto, before. You said a lot of people, we kind of trash Mike for the competition he had, but like Mike couldn't choose that competition. As a matter of fact, what made Mike so invincible, like you said, was his aura. He did this stuff for the cult. I mean, what guy do you know, man? He came in playing Public Enemy, man. This bull came in with, this was crazy, man. White Sox, that was all for the culture, man.
It was for the culture. That's a great point, Ryder. That's a post right there. That's a post.
Yeah.
But anyway, keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as this, like, it's just the crazy thing about this is that while we are in a state of shock, it's not a state of shock that, again, I think either resonates through, like, you know, the comparison of a Tyson Douglas and other upsets throughout history. I mean, I think in the modern era, when we think about how coveted the O is, I think that's a big deal too, you know, because, you know, back in the day, you know, we've seen dudes get knocked out. We've seen guys lose, and Lennox Lewis both times. I mean, granted, he came back and avenged those losses. The only thing I'll say in the difference with, you know, Lennox Lewis is that, you know, this fight with, you know, Joshua Ruiz, man, Ruiz knocked him down 4 times and put a thorough beating on Joshua.
That's the difference.
A knockout, like, you know, and then, oh damn, you know, and let's also talk about what I had told you guys following the fight, after watching it a second time, not the whole fight, but something I caught in the end when Anthony Joshua spits out his mouthpiece. Now ROD said he made the point of Chico. He did that in the Castillo fight. Some looked at that as like a way to gain a little breather, and that's why you'll get deducted points if you spit out the mouthpiece, because it's a process of spitting it out and everything.
Shout out to Zab.
Word up. So yeah, RD had mentioned that, and as that happened, though, they replayed it again. You see him go to the corner. Now, somebody had told me that he didn't go to his corner. It was another corner. It was hard for me to really tell, but I'm looking at it, and they had a really close-up shot, and I think they did have the audio of the ref. He had the body language of somebody that was okay that the fight was stopped. That's just what I got. You know what I'm saying? If people constitute that as him quitting, and that's going to be up for debate. I'll leave that to you. But what do you think? All right, let me ask you all this, okay? Because now the talk is, me and RD talked about YouTube Train, like they were mentioning that they're going to do this rematch in the UK. Sorry, guys, that is not happening.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And before I pass it to you guys, and I'm going to tell you one particular reason why. There's a particular for a lot of y'all that don't know that prior to this fight being officially signed and Ruiz getting like that 11th hour, fill-in, he signed a deal with Al Heyman, and he got the the okay to have the fight go to the zone, but Al Heyman now has the two heavyweight champions of the world. So if you think that it's going to be that easy to get Andy Ruiz, who overnight, I mean, look, guys, he has become, at the very least in the sports world, he has become a name overnight. He is, and this has to do with social media, has to do with the memes. I know you guys saw the one where the ghost comes out and the Curb Your Enthusiasm music hits. Like, this is viral stuff, and this is the modern era. I mean, this is the modern day. Yeah, ESPN, Fox Sports, what have you, but think about what social media is doing for Andy Ruiz at this current moment. He's becoming a name. So, to you guys, man, like, what does Anthony Joshua do from this point? Do you think he goes into an immediate rematch?
I don't know where RD went.
I'm here. I was on mute. My bad. Yeah, I think in terms of immediate rematch, I think that we'll put it like this. See, Train, man, you gotta watch Train. Train like moonlights as like a psychologist, man. He reads a lot of body language, man, and he got me thinking. And he was like, ride or die. Like he look like a guy that do not even want a rematch. And it's a shame. And it's such a shame because I looked at it again. Train had me second guessing myself, and I'm like, man, you know what? All that's all talk, man. Him wanting that rematch stuff, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, yeah, you know what? I think his fans want him to have a rematch more than he actually wants a rematch, and and that's just me going by what Train said, because he got me thinking about his body language. And again, you're talking to a guy who just lost. So what do you expect his body language to be like? But again, I don't know. But like, if there is a rematch, I'm not gonna, I don't think it's gonna fare too well for him. And I won't get into the strategy, but I just know that it seemed like that fight took a lot out of him emotionally.
Right. Yep.
Like that whole card, like the Big Baby Miller thing, the training, maybe being in the United States. And then, you hear the rumors of quote unquote him being sick. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. He really wasn't sick, because he still knocked dude down and he got hit as much as he normally get hit. It's just that he got knocked out this time. So I think that this card was emotionally draining to him. And it looked like after the fight, I'm being honest, it was almost like, and Train said this, it was almost like he was like, whew, like, okay, this monkey's off my back now. I don't know, man. That's just, I mean, Train got me thinking about like these, like this, almost like this is some like Clue mystery. Like, I'm like, I don't know how to really look at this guy now. It don't, to me, to answer your question, it doesn't look like he wants a rematch. But if he has a rematch, it cannot happen in the UK because they will rob Andy Ruiz and they will give Andy Ruiz, they will give Joshua a 20 count.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Well, first of all, I think the UK is, I just think that's just them talking. Like, I mean, like, all right, you was this big cash cow and that everybody was chasing, no doubt about it. But the mystique of that was you with no losses. You know, fair or unfair that is, you know, the mystique was you was this undefeated gladiator, big black Drago looking dude. You know what I mean? You was like a real life. No, seriously, they built his mystique up like a real life character. He looks like how boxers looking. You notice in movies, boxers never look like real fighters.
Real boxers. Somebody called him the Black Lou Ferrigno. I forgot who it was.
Seriously, because Hollywood paints this picture, and I get it, because when you selling a story to people that don't follow a sport, you want them to look big. Even Creed, Michael B. Jordan, now he's not a tall guy, but you look how extra muscular they got him looking. Like, you know how, and look at Andre Ward torso in his frame compared to Mike, who Andre Ward, who's actually a real fighter, and right. Michael B. Jordan, who isn't, is more cut up than Andre Ward. Now,
yeah.
So you understand? So anyway, so the point here being is that they're going to try to sell like, oh, well, we're marketable and this and that. It could be a ploy too to price themselves out of the fight. Like it could be a marketing ploy where, well, we want to do the fight in the UK and they don't want to do it, so we're going to move on to do something else. But there's no way Al Heyman is signing off on that.
No way.
I do think it's going to have to be a rematch because in order for them to get anything back, he's going to have to fight him again, and especially the fact that Wilder and Fury is happening again because now it's like, well, they were able to do their rematch.
Yeah. And
why can't you do yours?
And to your point, Train, like you always said, the business side that I hate, but I'm starting to learn from you, Roberto. He lost his bargaining chip, man. So now it's almost
That's
like he's like he looks like almost like the Terrence Crawford, if you will, of the heavyweight division. Like he's looking outside in now.
Yeah. Yo, let me tell you something. I honestly think, well, and you guys made points like Andy Ruiz is in a position where Al Heyman can say, hey, look, you want to fight Andy Ruiz next? You want a rematch? All right, no problem. We're gonna do this joint on Fox pay-per-view, and we're gonna do it on Showtime pay-per-view. This whole thing with DAZN and everything, like that's gonna be difficult. So this could, to me, I feel they're not gonna. I'm riding with Train. I don't think it's gonna be next. I think they'll.
Oh heck no! Can be. That would be crazy.
It's not gonna be next. It's not gonna be next. So
you saw. You know what's so crazy? So let's get back to the whole like you learn from history. You know, when you think about Tyson and Douglas, man, Mike wanted that rematch ASAP. Man, Douglas was like, screw that. I'm fighting Evander Holyfield. I'm cashing out, man. If you think about it, so he cashed out, and I'm gonna tell you. What's so interesting about this, this might be I hate to say this, listen to what I'm telling you. This might be the end of the zone as we know it.
Well,
let's get to that. Okay, because the thing a lot of things happened last night, man. I mean Saturday night, as it concerns the future of the zone, Anthony Joshua, the heavyweight division. But as it concerns DAZN, man, listen, this is a streaming app that is still, as you guys would maybe understand, like in beta format, right? Like we're still kind of going through the motions of this, how this app is going to work. I mean, it's hitting. I mean, man, it's not even a year yet, and the two guys that have been the pillars, at least up to this point, have been Canelo Alvarez and Anthony Joshua, and you just had one of your pillars not only just knocked out, I mean, that happens, but he got beat up. And mentally, I don't know where Joshua is. And you guys touched on things as far as just how, like, you know, like he was about losing the heavyweight championship of the world. And listen, man, like, we can't sit here and ignore the elephant in the room, that is the fact that the biggest commercial heavyweight fight in the last, what, 20 something some odd years, you guys would say, right? Just got crushed.
Oh, yeah. Now, I mean, financially, it could have been the biggest ever, financially, in this day and age.
And yeah.
Because just think about it. Even when Lennox and them was going on purses, like the purses that they're giving out now, would have, like, Joshua would have at least got about close to 100. Like, it would have been something crazy he would have got.
Stupid, especially if Fox is getting behind it. Yeah,
it would have been like close to 100 million. He would have got a loan. Then Wilder would have probably. That's the one thing. The bag went up in flames for Wilder. I know he was coming at Joshua and all, and it was fun. But at the end of the day, he's like, "Damn, my money just got lit on fire, literally."
Yo, somebody just commented on the chat. Did you guys pick up on the story about Joshua's pop? Well, yeah, RD sent me the link.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, remember?
Yeah. So somebody's commenting saying, like, you know, do you think there's a possibility that, you know, there's a situation where Joshua may leave Eddie Hearn? I mean, I don't know about all that.
Nah, that's gonna be hard.
I mean, he's not gonna leave. I mean, at the end of the day,
it's emotions right now. It's a lot of emotions.
Yeah. It's emotions, and at the end of the day, you know, when you think about it, which is, I know we're all over the place, but one of the things that we got to remember, and I've always been a believer is, you know, if you getting like knocked out in sparring with headgear by
we were here
about that.
Saying like with people that we know are not really committed to punches, and we do know there's sparring partners that try to make try to make a name for themselves in the camp, but you know they make it too aggressive, they send them home. But we hear this all too often with Anthony Joshua, man, and now, I hate to say this, he's starting to, them punches he took, they weren't really, like, let's keep it a bean. That punch that Brazil took was more cleaner than the punches that Ruiz landed on Joshua. Let's be honest. They were accumulation, but that punch that Wilder hit Brazil with was kind of more cleaner than that. So what I'm saying is he's showing signs of what Train said of kind of like being punch drunk. So not his speech and his, you know, slurring, but just his behavior, man. Like, he getting hit like how Roy Jones was getting hit against Glenn Jones, and he just all over the place. Like how this is how Roy would get knocked out with some silly punch.
But we talking about age, and that's bad that we're comparing him to aged. These are aged fighters that we're talking about here. You know what I mean? Like, that's bad. Even Khan got some miles on his tires. Some tread, even though he got knocked out a lot early, but Khan got some tread on his tire, where Joshua, because the way he was handled carefully, because I swear after the Klitschko fight, because if you think about that fight really, even though he won that fight, a lot got taken out of him in that fight too.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, the Klitschko fight, the Dillian White fight, the Povetkin fight, this fight. I mean, he's gotten hurt in each one of those fights.
He got hurt
in 3 or 4 of those. I mean, at some point, you know, you start to think, and you look at the heavyweight division, man, and you know, I don't rate Big Baby Miller like very high, but I mean, like, I start to think about other guys that would have been in there, and it's just like, like, this could have been Big, and you saw his tweet, like, sitting there like, this could have been me.
Nah, you know what? Who are the biggest losers of this fight is not like Anthony Joshua. If you're Luis Ortiz, or if you're Big Baby Miller, you're kicking yourself right now. Big Baby, listen, Luis Ortiz turned down how much? $5 million?
I don't know the whole story with that, because it's like I'm hearing two sides. Like, I'm hearing his management might have messed it up. I'm hearing Eddie Hearn's saying one thing. Like, I never got the full story, but I can't imagine that they would have turned down any remote money that they knew, like, okay, like, we got this guy. Because look, let me just say this, man. And I mean, we've said this on the show. All of us here, we all picked Wilder to beat Joshua. But I think even Saturday night, like the allure was lost. Obviously, I mean, granted, that's not to say that this fight won't ever happen. We've seen.
You got to build it back.
You got to build it back. I don't know how long that's going to be for Joshua. Right, it's gonna be a while. But look, I'm of the belief, man, that now that everybody, all the heavyweight champions are under one umbrella, man. Like I really feel that. What have we been missing in the United States for how many years? We haven't had a undisputed American heavyweight champion. And at this point, it's going to be easier than ever for them to piece that all together. And they were saying something about like Deontay Wilder sent a tweet or a DM to Andy Ruiz, like saying, you got an opportunity now, and but I mean, look, man, we've all said what from when they initiated this whole PBC, run or what have you, who was one of the guys that they needed to put at the very top to get them to really build the brand and that's the heavyweight champion of the world in whichever way you can make it happen. And Saturday night made it in a good, bad way where for Wilder, he's missing out on what could have been a huge paycheck. But I think now it's going to be easier for him to gain all those belts. But now it's just kind of like we have to look forward to a Wilder Fury too. I mean, that's the next bit. I mean, outside of let's not forget about the Ortiz fight, but that's, I guess, right now in the immediate, as far as things to look forward to. I mean, would you guys agree? Like that's the next best competitive fight to be made at heavyweight.
But that's what I'm saying. So like now what happens? So now the PBC, the belts are all in the PBC stable. So now you guys are the business guys. So those two fights are signed. So basically, let's just say Wilder's done for until 2020. So what happens now? Like, can they kind of override those fights contractually and go and just have a unification bout? Or because if that's the case, I mean, listen, Ruiz is probably going to sit and marinate in those belts for a second until Wilder gets through those guys.
Yeah, I don't.
And then we have a unification bout. Like, what happens? Or can we just kind of say, you know what, screw both of you guys, let Anthony Joshua fight one or two of those guys since Wilder already fought both of them, and they put Wilder and Ruiz in there. How do you like? Can they do that?
You want to take that train? Right, exactly. My sentiments exactly. I mean,
here's what I think is going to happen. This is my prediction of what's going to happen. I think you're going to get Wilder, and nothing's happening this year. Obviously, everything is probably going to be put on the back burner. Ruiz is going to get a probably like a softball tune-up just to get so he can flaunt his belts. They're going to fight again, Ruiz and Wilder. I mean Joshua. They're going to fight again probably at the beginning of the first quarter of the winter next year. And then you're going to have the winner of Wilder and Fury will get the winner of Joshua and Ruiz. That's how I think it's going to play out. So it's going to be a year time frame before we knew anything. I think what actually happened was kind of, even though the money got messed up for Wilder, and he's going to have to go a bit on a detour. Even if Ruiz somehow pulled his fight off again, I mean, not somehow, but if he pulled his fight off, especially if he knocks him out again, now it's not as big as the Joshua fight is, but at least Wilder will have a big B-side opponent to fight.
Right.
And it's an American fight. It's two Heyman guys, so it's easy to make.
Yeah.
He's a personality, and this is what we always talk about. You need personalities in boxing, and Ruiz he got personality. So it's almost like who called him Chris Arreola with better hand skills? Was that you or Doc? I can't remember, Ryder Doc.
That was Doc. That was Doc
Okay.
that said that.
So Chris Arreola had all the personality in the world and could have been a mega superstar, but he just didn't take his craft as serious. And it's funny because there's a video, I don't know if it was you that shared the Rada with Ruiz as a guy just becoming in, he just turned pro.
Yeah, I put it out.
Did you hear what he said about Chris? Now here's a guy that just became pro, and he wasn't trying to trash Arreola. He was just like, he needs to work on his head movement. Like, basically, he needs to work on his slickness. You know, this is what Ruiz said, like, when he was a young guy coming into the pros. So this is a guy that understands that you just can't just get in the ring and just try to slug it out with somebody. He's actually trying to box. So, you know, it was good to see that back then. But anyhow, to your question, Rada, I think that's how it's all going to play out, me personally. That's how I think that's how it's going to unfold. I think it's those four, and everybody else is just looking on it. Unfortunately, this is how boxing always been. It's a traffic jam with four fighters right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because I think a lot too really is really dependent on what Joshua's next, you know, what his plan really is, man. Because, you know, we're just hearing so much. I mean, and again, man, we don't report rumors and things of that nature, man. We just hear things and we just sit back and see how things unfold. But, you know, one thing we need to see with Joshua is just mentally where he's at, man, because we still have a lot of questions. You know, it's like one of those movies that ends and you're coming out of it, like, scratching your head, like, all right, you know, like, where's this going? But I think
let's do this real fast, because I don't want to take away anything, because I still think, with all that being said and done, and Train said it as well, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this, that if Joshua if the Klitschko that fought Joshua, if the Joshua that fought Klitschko showed up on Saturday night, let's make it very clear, Andy Ruiz still beats him.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, nobody's saying this was a fluke.
Right. So this was no fluke. Like, Andy Ruiz still beats him. If this was the Joshua that fought Povetkin or Parker, Andy Ruiz still beats him, because everything he did does not negate the fact that he still doesn't clinch, he still doesn't throw a jab, he keeps his hands too low, and he has a bad chin. Would you agree? I know Train agree with that. Would you agree with that, Roberto?
Yeah, and he doesn't move his head. He's I mean, yeah, you mentioned everything, and on top of it, it's just we said this. It's just he gasses. He's got this big bulk body, but he wastes energy. And you got somebody like, and it's funny. Max Kellerman said this, you know, because, you know, Stephen A. Smith got a lot of crap for this tweet that he put out calling Andy Ruiz Butterbean and everything. And, you know, he does a lot of stuff for shock value, but, you know, Kellerman kind of put him on the spot and say, yo, listen, man, like, you know what got unnoticed Saturday night that was unspoken was the fact that Anthony Joshua started at, like, what, 18 years old? Didn't really have much of an amateur career. You know how many amateur fights Andy Ruiz had? Like, what, like 150?
Yep.
You know? And you talk about, he was mentioning stuff like muscle memory. And I'll tell you one point where that showed up. And when the first series of knockdowns happened, Joshua goes in there, head out, swinging away. And when you see, because they were showing the knockdown and everything in slow motion, you see Andy Ruiz get in the pocket. He basically sees the punches coming, and that is somebody that has been fighting since he was a kid, muscle memory, and knowing what to do when you're inside, you know. So
now it's funny you say that, because now I go back to something, and like Train said, this story, and I think you said it, the story's starting to unravel. Now we're starting to see why Lennox Lewis wasn't really getting along with him.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Lennox Lewis was trying to give him advice before, but, like, you know, Train is from Philadelphia, I'm from Philadelphia. If we were both, like, you know, very successful and kind of like the diamonds in the rough in what we do, we would probably give each other advice. It'd behoove me to listen to Train if he's already been a champ before. So basically, man, I don't know, man. They didn't get along with each other for some reason. And Lennox Lewis identified himself more with Wilder. I'm saying that to say that now, all the stuff you're talking about, like what happened with Ruiz, all these flaws we're seeing, he's going to have to change his whole style, and there'll be no person better to get with than probably like a Lennox Lewis or a Jonathan Banks to really teach him how to fight that true European upright style, that 1-2 clinch, twist you and hold you and use your height. Because if he don't, I'm telling you this right now, he might get messed up even worse against like Andy Ruiz, man. Somebody like that. He gonna wind up getting really hurt bad, man. Like bad. If that was Wilder, I'm telling you, the saving grace for him, if that was Wilder on Saturday night, the Wilder we saw against Tyson Fury, just Tyson Fury, he might have died. He's a sitting duck.
I mean, yeah, it's just, I think the thing we can't get out of our heads is the fact that, again, this wasn't just a fluke knockout, man. Like Andy Ruiz, the much smaller fighter, granted, collectively probably the more experienced fighter as far as from beginning to now. But you mentioned it, man. Like, you know, we don't like to play the triangle theory, but I'm sorry, if you put Wilder in there, whether it's the one that fought Tyson Fury, whether it's the one that fought Luis Ortiz, I think he takes Anthony Joshua out of there in 3-4 rounds, man, because of the fact that I don't think Anthony Joshua's punch resistance is there, man. I think that's going to be a big problem going forward when he fights other heavyweights, and which is why I don't think, like you guys said, like I don't think the rematch is going to happen right away with Andy Ruiz. He's going to get a quasi cream puff to get his confidence back. But I just don't know going forward when he gets in there. Let's say he fights Dillian White again, or he does end up fighting Big Baby Miller, or he fights. Let me ask you guys this. I'll put you on the spot. Saturday night, replace. Some may say I'm premature, but put Alexander Usyk in there. Saturday night, what happens?
Oh no.
Or you think that's too much?
Nah. What do you think, Train? Nah, he hasn't even had one heavyweight fight yet.
Right. Somebody told me that today. Somebody was telling me that today. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But at this point, like, do you all right, based on Saturday night, like, do you think he could still beat like the top 5 heavyweights in boxing? Like, I guess however you rate them.
Right, like in terms of what?
Man, saying, do you think he can beat like if he goes in there and I mean I don't think it'll be obviously next, but if you think like whether it's Big Baby Miller or Dillian White rematch, like those fights, at least for us,
you mean can Joshua beat them?
But it's like you really don't know now. Like you really don't know.
You mean can Joshua beat them?
Yeah.
Listen to what Train said. Train is not going to admit it, but I'm gonna tell you what Train said. Train basically said that Joshua done, and I'm starting to believe that. After what I heard about the whole sparring thing, this stuff and all the madness in the corner, how his dad didn't want him to fight, all this stuff. People, was he sick? All this stuff. I think like what Jay-Z said. No matter where you are who you are, player.
Top leg. We used to use that on the show. That was Sleep John on the show.
Yeah, I think that this is who he is, and I think that we have to accept this. And to be honest, Train said it. He being very diplomatic. He said that he done.
But that's the thing. It's like we like I kind of feel the same way, man. And it has to do with how he acted when he lost, man. Like it just like it reeked of somebody who just like was okay with it happening. That when he gets put in that situation again, I think he's gonna do the same thing, man. Like where he's gonna find a way to escape. I caught that Saturday night, and I'm like, I just thought of other fights when he gets in trouble. And granted, we've seen him in trouble, and he manages to gather himself. But this like mentally, like I don't know, man. Like this is gonna tell a lot as far as what he does next, because now you start to wonder when he gets hurt, like, is he just gonna fold at this point? Because he took some bombs, man. I mean, not all right, not the hardest punches, but again, like every punch that was hitting him, it just looked like it was like a Mack truck hitting him. You know, he didn't take him well. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think I don't want people, because I know people out there, like I was talking to some people earlier. My man was like, "Oh, well, Chavez got knocked out by Frankie Randall and Barrera lost to Junior Jones." Here's the problem, though, with all those scenarios. Here's the problem. Nobody ever questioned Chavez's fight game other than Hector Camacho, who said he was fighting a bunch of Tijuana cab drop. That's a whole nother story, but that was funny as hell, by the way. But nobody actually really questioned, could Chavez fight? Nobody ever questioned, could Barrera fight? Nobody was questioning these, not even so much could they fight. Nobody was these shortcomings. We talked about these shortcomings. Let's see, what's the thing that people forget? And I'm talking to the Joshua people out there, or the fair balance people. We're about as fair, we in Rada, he's, on offline, he'll go in on fighters, but is probably, when we used to do the show, was probably the most even kill and fair balance guy out of our whole crew. And he even was like, listen, we talked about it offline. I want people to understand how serious punch resistance is. It's like, basically, if you blow on something like a leaf or paper or a sheet of paper and it just blows away, that's what your punch resistance become as a fighter once it goes away from you. Like, I brought up Amir Khan because I didn't know who else to bring up as of recent. This is a guy that lost it very early, and maybe it was never there. But when you get, Floyd always talked about this, when you get knocked out, when you constantly get knocked out, you're basically like a shell of yourself, just kind of still hanging around. And Joshua's been, and when Rada brought this up earlier to us, Roberto, about all the times he's been dropped down. Listen, Tommy Hearns was knocked out in every big fight he's ever been in. But nobody ever questioned Hearns' shortcomings, other things that he do well in the ring. There's so many things that was question marks for me. And you talked about the amateur pedigree, Rada, because that's very important, because you lose a lot when you don't fight in the amateurs. And that's why you see guys like the Triple G's and the Lomochenkos and the Rigondeaux, even though whatever would happen, the Lars, these guys that was these seasoned fighters, because that's like laws now and all over in boxing, where people just don't go into amateurs, they just jump right into the pros. And it shows once again why this sport here it's an organic sport. Very rare do you get a guy that comes into this sport with no pedigree and go on to do great things. You look at every great fighter that blessed this sport that we're going to be talking about 20, 30 years from now, been doing it since they was little children. And that's just how it's always been. But we're not officially writing Joshua off. All we're saying is it's very dangerous, the flaws that he has. Yep. And it won't end well. Facts. It won't end well.
I agree, man. Like, again, I totally agree. And I'm glad you brought up the point that, we're not here trying to bash Joshua or anything like that. I mean, it's just what we saw was what we've seen. Let me just say that. I mean, all of us, what we've seen with Joshua, the writing's been on the wall, which, again, adds to why, while we're shocked, there is a sense of us that kind of isn't. It was almost as if we were waiting for this to happen. We just thought it was going to happen on a much bigger platform, against, a bigger fighter. But, yeah, look, I am of the belief that what he went through Saturday, and then, like, even just prior to that, and look, we're hearing about the knockouts and sparring, and that wears you out. And especially him being as young as he is, and he's already going through that, I'm very curious as to what happens when he gets in there again and somebody, he gets hit. How does he react? And that's going to be very telling. And you brought up Amir Khan, man. I mean, Khan got knocked out early in his career. And then I want to see, and then he had success after that, but I think the Danny fight was kind of, I want to say kind of it. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, he really never won a big.
Nah, after that, man. Remember, he got knocked out. But
Well,
remember, he fought
like
Marco.
that,
He fought Marcos. Remember, he fought Marcos Maidana, and everybody, and he dropped Maidana in the first round with a body shot. But after that, Marcos Maidana was like hunting him. He looked bad.
What fight was first? Was the Danny fight or the Martin Maidana fight?
Maidana was first because he was still at
Maidana was first.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay.
But I'm saying to Train point, he never fully recovered from that Prescott beating.
Yeah.
And you gotta remember he tried to change his style and you know it just didn't work. And again, I just want to say this, you know, to what Train said, having fair balance. You don't want to take anything away from Andy Ruiz because again, I'm gonna say this because we all agreed if this could have been Anthony Joshua in the Olympics, Andy Ruiz still would have beat him. Like it's the bottom line because it's just how skilled Andy Ruiz is. It's just that we're not laughing, but we're basically, you know, kind of conversing about the flaws that we saw in Anthony Joshua. They all came out all at once on Saturday, every last one of them. Before, you laughing, Train. Before it was like one or two. Now on Saturday, every last one of them came out. It was like the perfect storm of all his flaws came out on Saturday, all together.
Everything, yeah.
We try. Listen, and you go back and watch old videos. Because everybody was like Teddy Atlas was going off, but before Teddy Atlas, we was telling y'all this stuff. We was warning y'all. We saw it. But listen, we watch. All three of us. This is over 60 years worth of watching boxing on this thread right now. Over 60 years of watching boxing. We don't proclaim to be some savants or some boxing geniuses or anything of that sort. But we watch enough boxing. We know these flaws, and we know these flaws. They never have a happy ending in these flaws. And what you saw Saturday night was a frustrated father, knowing that basically when they do these fights in these fighting meetings, they watch these fights. Somebody will show video like, hey, this is a guy we're thinking about having Anthony fight. What do you guys think about it? And listen, nobody knows anybody better than a father knows his son, especially if his dad been around his career long as he has. Maybe he saw something in Ruiz like, I don't think this is a good fight for him stylistically. You know, they know the same way we sit here and talking about his flaws. Hearn know his flaws, and his father and the people in the camp know his flaws, especially knowing what was on the line with Wilder. Because listen, worst case scenario, if he loses to Wilder, at least he gets paid for it. So it looked like a avalanche that just came all down came rolling down in the ring on Saturday night. And everybody just looked upset because they know that their cash cow just might have got milked out on Saturday night.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're like in a whole new world right now as far as the heavyweight division is concerned, man. I mean, I don't recall a time where there was so much attention on the heavyweight division, man. It is a concerns where none of us know where the future is headed, you know. And on top of it, you know, it's not just like one or two guys like really dominating everything. I mean, look, Tyson Fury and Wilder are going to fight again. We don't know what's going on with Anthony Joshua. We don't know who Andy Ruiz is going to fight next. I mean, Luis Ortiz and Wilder are going to fight. What do we get upset number two? I mean, who knows? I mean, and this is the beauty about boxing, man. It's what I term, you know, I'm not termed, but like, you know, what you've always heard or termed as the theater of the unexpected, man. I mean, this is why we train, ROD, myself, we all have predictions, but these guys actually got to get in the ring and fight. And Saturday night proved why, you know, you number one, do not fall in love with having a physique, and number two, you know, the writing's been on the wall, man. And I think, you know, Train brought up great points, man. I just think there was a major exposition Saturday night. We got to witness it. So beyond that, man, before we wrap up, I mean, like I said, we had Triple G this weekend on DAZN, you know, making his debut. Let me just say this. We talked about it earlier today. I think Saturday night, outside of any effery that I don't really see happening Saturday night, but we're dealing with a whole different caliber of fighter in relation to, but I really think we're going to get this Canelo Triple G3 fight. It's in September because DAZN at this point, man, really needs it. But that's pretty much it, man. Do you want to wrap up with anything before we head out, Trey?
I just want to. Oh, Tony Harris, Charlo is off.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It really. I mean, other than this happening with the Ruiz situation, it's been an underwhelming year in boxing. Oh, I mean, you had J-Rock. The good thing, let me just say that before I say it's been an underwhelming year, because the build up, some of these fights weren't the greatest. We did get 2 nice treats. I think boxing is at its best when upsets happen. I really do, because for so long we get these fights where what's going to happen before it happens, and 2 fights this year where everybody thought it would go one way and went the total opposite. I just think that's always better for the sport. However, with that being said, we need at least one super fight to cap this year off. And I'm not talking about Triple G and Canelo, which I think, unfortunately, is going to be the only super fight that we have this year. And even if it's not a super fight, but a level of a fight where, like, okay, now that's intriguing. That's a fight, that's going to clamor a lot of interest. You know what I mean? So still early. Anything's possible. We still got September on the table, which you think Roberto's going to Triple G and Canelo more so than ever now, judging by what's happened on Saturday. You just happened last Saturday night, so I guess we got to wait and see.
Yeah, pretty much, man. So we'll touch base, man. I mean, like I said, this weekend, Canelo Triple G, Steve Rolls, Triple G's debut on DAZN, and yeah, man, it's we'll find out more about the heavyweight division as the weeks roll by. We'll see what the rematch situation is like, if it's going to happen. I'm of the belief it doesn't happen, at least yet, immediately. And, salute to Andy Ruiz, man. I mean, we mentioned this before, man. Let's not get it twisted, man. Like, he deserves this. This isn't a fluke. This wasn't a knockout like, oh, wow, an Oliver McCall or Hasim Rockman. No disrespect to them, but, this was a legit dominant win by Andy Ruiz Jr. So we'll see what happens in his immediate future and everybody else involved. So that's pretty much it, man. We'll be back next week. Shout out to R.O. Diggity, Coltrane. Follow us at GYGB Boxing on Instagram, Facebook.com/GYG Boxing, at GYG Boxing on Twitter. So that's pretty much it, man. Until next time, yeah.
Peace.